Lone Wolf Show. Uh, uh, Lone Wolf Show. Uh, Lone Wolf Show. Lone Wolf Show. Hey, everybody. It's the Lone Wolf Show, and we're streaming live on social media on the platform of Witchcraft TV, who is officially being launched on October 31st at www.witchcrafttv.online. Monica, how have you been lately, anyways?
I've been great. I'm here in Kansas, and wow, it's been hot. And then all of a sudden, we got a big, huge rain, and now it's supposed to snow on Sunday. It's 70 degrees today. So Kansas weather is beautiful, but it's a little, it changes a lot. How are you doing? How was the new job today?
I'm doing great. I am doing a little painting and contracting, and I think it's important that every good priest or priestess, supports themselves, and kind of does that, and then gives back to the community. I think that's very important. So yeah, just taking care of things, loose ends, doing a lot of programming work for the new station that is launching in October. Other than that, we're about to have a really great guest on tonight. You'll never
Yes,
guess.
we've had her on a few times, but it's a new subject because we really want to get the information out. And she's here to talk about the Day of the Dead. And our guest is do
Reverend Laura González, everybody.
welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for that wonderful presentation. You're all dancing and moving and swinging, and like the song says, and moving to the grooving. And I agree with I don't know, call you Harold, call you Lone Wolf, like what do I call you? Um,
Well, my name is Harold, and I'm also known as Lone Wolf, so either will suffice.
okay, so yeah, I agree that people should work and support themselves and then give to the community. And then to understand that there are some of us that our job is precisely to be ministers to the community. So, like
Mhm.
me, the tarot readings, the services in the community, all the stuff that I do online. Most of my ministry is online, and I joke around and I tell people that once in a while I come out to the real world, but there's a lot of work. So, tarot readings, cleansings, healing, all of that stuff that I work and do, and I work full time. And thanks to people, wonderful people that hire me for those services, I get to do all of the other stuff that I volunteer for the community, which is like teaching and shows like this where we don't get paid. We just come because we love the community. All of the podcasts. I mean, I've been podcasting for 12 years.
Yeah.
And when folks ask me, like, when's the book coming? Like, I have 12 years of podcasting. That's my book. Those are my books. Many, many books. How's everybody doing tonight? Congrats on the new job.
Yeah. I mean, we're doing great. We're getting the final loose ends ready for the new station and the network of Witchcraft TV that's launching in October 31st. And we've been saying for Samhain is what we've been saying. Uh, but with especially with this interview, there's a lot of different. Now we know that Samhain actually has Scottish and Irish roots, Gaelic roots. It comes from Gaelic culture, Irish culture, Scottish culture, but geographically in different places, the same time of year where the deathly time of year where things start to die, is celebrated by so many different cultures. And I think that is definitely the focus of this interview. Um, can you give me an insight on um, the festival Day of the Dead?
Absolutely. So, first of all, and this is like the main information that I want people to kind of try to grasp and understand and keep. Um, it's not Samhain. It's not Mexican Halloween.
Hmm.
It's not pagan connected. It has a little bit of pagan adjacent tradition, but I will explain why. And it's not even a Catholic celebration, you know. I made this horrible joke that I can make because I'm Mexican. You can laugh, but you cannot make the joke. I always tell people that Mexico is the most pagan country in the world. Don't tell the Mexicans because they think they're Catholic. And the horrible joke stems from the fact that when the colonizers came to America, the continent, and please know when I say America, I'm talking about the continent. If I talk about United States, I will do it that way. When the colonizers came to America, they brought Catholicism, and that Catholicism was heavily infused with pagan traditions. So, what Day of the Dead is now, as we know it now, it is ancient indigenous tradition on honoring and celebrating the dead that suffered the exact same luck that Samhain suffered, which was a holiday that people wanted to eradicate, and it ended up being larger than life. So the Catholic priests were trying to eradicate our celebration to honoring the dead, and by putting it on All Souls Day and All Saints Day, they just made it bigger. But it's not Halloween, it's not Mexican Halloween, it's not Samhain, it's not Day of the Dead, it's, pardon me, it's not pagan. And Day of the Dead, as we know it now, it was celebrated in 2 different months. So the calendar for people, um, the Nahua people or the Mexica Tenochca people, so-called Aztec, would celebrate the dead for 2 months. And those were roughly what is now the end of July, all of August, and the beginning of September, because that is the time of when the Earth is going through changes in what is Mesoamerica. So Mesoamerica is like Mexico, Central America, and a little bit of South America, but not a whole lot. It's most of Mexico, and they would celebrate the dead for 40 days. So it was a 40-day celebration. And on the first 20 days, you will celebrate the young dead. So it was the younger people who have passed on before 13 years old. And then on the second set of 20 days, you will celebrate and honor the older people, 13 and over. And those traditions, they were very, very strong. And they were very, very, I mean, it was part of the calendar that for 40 days on the year, they will honor the ancestors, they will honor the dead. And their language was very metaphorical. There was not direct language, so everything was spoken with metaphors, like most of the oral traditions. And one part of that metaphor is that we are here on the planet to be like a flower, to be planted like a seed and then become a sprout and then bloom and then eventually give a fruit, and that fruit eventually will wither away or will be eaten, and then the seed will come back to the earth, and then the cycle of life will continue. That was the metaphor, and that's why the flowers are so important on nowadays Day of the Dead. I happen to have some here because I was totally prepared. And it's the marigold, which in Mexico actually they call the flor de muerto, so the flower of the dead, and it blooms at this time of the year. So it's been adapted to be part of it. But for some people say for millennia, now this particular flower has been related to the other dead. So 2,000 years ago, we used to celebrate for 40 days, right? Then the colonizers came 500 years ago. They did all the things colonizers do, genocide, killing, etc. Erased the culture, and that tradition was not eradicated. They couldn't eradicate our beliefs. So it got converted into All Souls Day and All Saints Day.
Mm-hmm.
And because All Souls Day is a celebration for the infants who died before they were baptized or something like that, um, still the young dead will be celebrated on the first, and then on the second, it will be everybody that was baptized. And so now the tradition, here's where it enters this amalgamation with Catholic traditions, right? So the altars back in the day, it was just flowers and fruit, or flowers and food. And now they're so elaborated, right? Because now you have this Catholic influence on them, and you have water purification, and then salt for purification, and fire for purification, and then the little paper decorations to be moved by the wind for purification. So you have air, fire, and water. That was brought in by the Catholic priests, but if you trace that, that comes from the pagan traditions. So
Mm-hmm.
there is a little tiny influence of paganism, but it's not seen as a pagan holiday. It is indigenous and is now obviously intrinsic to a Mexico that is mostly Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And people still celebrate, and some people are knowledgeable of it being indigenous in origin, but some people aren't. And that's why I've been teaching it for 38 years. And it varies from region to region. People forget that Mexico is also a continental country like the United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thinner in the bottom, but it's still continental. So we have the northern region, the central, the south, the Gulf, etc. So each region has their own super rich, complicated traditions, but it's not Mexican Halloween. And then you have the diaspora, right? Then you have people like me or other ancestors that have left Mexico and have gone throughout the world to the United States, to other countries, to Europe, etc. And we bring that tradition with us. So
Mm-hmm.
it keeps evolving as we bring it into the diaspora, and it's just fascinating. And that's why when everybody asks me like, when are you going to write the book, like, I'm not, because it keeps evolving, and it's just fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm far from a Scott Cunningham or Paul Barrow when it comes to herbs and plants and flowers, but universally, is the marigold a flower of death?
I don't think it is universally. I don't know much about how the marigold plays a part on other traditions on the planet. But what I know is that for us Mexicans, modern day Mexicans, right? Um, it is La Flor de Muerto. It is the flower of the dead, and it has a very. I mean, I'm sure you all have been around marigolds, right? It has this beautiful aroma that for us is just the aroma of the season, because wherever you have this in Mexico, and the scent pairs with the memories. So everybody remembers their youth, their childhood, and then as you grow older, now you're the one setting up the altar for the ancestors that are gone, and you start teaching the young ones. So we really related with that season. And there's a variety. There's some that are purple, and they look like velvet, and they're just the most beautiful thing on the planet. But I don't know if in other traditions, and somebody just told me, like the marigold has like this rich history on other traditions, but I don't know. I just know what I know, which is like the Mexican ways.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
what's the
know that. Oh, Monica, go ahead.
Thank you. So what is a respectful way that we can celebrate Day of the Dead if we want to incorporate that into our rituals and spirituality?
The respectful way. Oh, we have what I. Okay. Nope. There's what I. All right. Um, The respectful way to incorporate it is to buy from Mexican people. Thank you. I think it's a lot of. All right. It looks like it's fixing. Nope, we still have echo. All right. Let's see if it works. Yes, it's fixed. Wonderful. Yay. So what I consider to be the most respectful way to follow the tradition and to be part of the tradition, I am just the one person, so I'm giving my very personal opinion, right? Because I have heard a lot of people that said, oh, my friends are okay with me dressing like a sugar skull for Halloween. Personally, I don't think that is correct because it gives the service to the tradition, right? However, you do you. But since you asked, to me, the most respectful way is A, you learn about your own family, lineage, dead traditions, and you incorporate those into your practice, right? And if you want to do Day of the Dead, if you want to be part of the tradition, if you want to celebrate and join us on this life celebration, buy from Mexican artisans, learn from Mexican people, share with Mexican people, and research the Mexican culture. Because it is very tiring that they love our food, love our traditions, love our aesthetics, love our music, love our restaurants, love our Day of the Dead, love our culture. They just don't love us. And it's not, that's not how it works. So I will be delighted, as I am to be here right now, to share with you, right? We do this, we do that, and we do it because of this, right? These are the reasons why we do things. And then somebody turns around and package that and mass produce that, and then they sell it, So that is not a respectful way to do it. Mm-hmm. This is a respectful way to do it. You invite me here to share with your followers, right? To learn from a person who has lived it, is on their DNA, and I've been teaching it for 38 years. I started teaching this when I was 12 years old because my teachers didn't believe me that it came from indigenous traditions. How did I know that? I don't know how I knew it. I just knew it. So don't buy from mass-produced dolls. Buy from a Mexican artisan. Don't buy the flowers. Go get them from a Mexican farm. If you're gonna do the bread, I gotta show you the bread is so amazing. Huh. We're gonna talk about the bread. If you're gonna buy the bread, go to a Mexican bread store. We call panaderias. And if you don't have a Mexican person in your community, ask around. I promise you there's one. And if not, I'm your Mexican person that can point you out into artisans, bread makers, etc. And that, but also learning from your own traditions. I think that honors your lineage. Mm-hmm. Don't go dress as a sugar skull to a Halloween party because that is really disrespectful. And I can almost hear people saying, but my Mexican-American friend says it was okay. Your Mexican-American friend says it is okay because they don't understand what is cultural appropriation because they are immersed in this culture. For us, the diaspora, that's all we have left. That's all we have left. And we have to protect it, So thank you for asking that, Monica.
So is that a part of it as well, dressing up as like a sugar skull and stuff like that, or is that just kind of like stuff you see on TV? Because I have seen that on movies and stuff, so I wasn't sure.
Um, as I was saying earlier, Patricia, nice to meet you. As I was saying earlier, the tradition just keeps evolving. It just keeps moving and moving and moving. And what happened with this, oh, thank you. What happened to this is life imitates art and then art imitates life, right? So it was in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, that James Bond movie
Hmm.
had a Day of the Dead parade on one of the scenes of the movie. And for us Mexicans, we were like, what? Like, we don't do parades. So from my generation, we never saw Day of the Dead parade. You know, people will dress as sugar skulls, but it was very like seldom. It almost never happened. You know, but then the movie happened, and then the government in Mexico, I guess, I'm theorizing here that they saw an opportunity to utilize our culture to benefit our people.
Hmm.
So since 2017 or 2018, I think, there is a festival that happens in Mexico City, and it's the Day of the Dead festival. And then people dressed up, and of course, our wonderful artisans in Mexico, they do this beautiful, elaborated sugar skull people dressed up and all that. So now it is a tradition. Now it is incorporated into the celebration, at least in Mexico City. I don't know if it's been incorporated in other parts of the country. And the majority of people that I see here in the United States dressed as Day of the Dead are Mexican American kids. And again, is now part of it. It's now being incorporated into that. But sometimes I see people that have nothing to do with our culture or know nothing about our culture, and they just slap, I don't know, white makeup and skulls t-shirt and a skull, a flower here, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm Mexican Day of the Dead. And I'm like, no, you're not. It has such a rich culture, you know, because the sugar skull was set up on the altars. It was a real skull. It was the skull of the person who died.
Huh.
That's
They,
interesting.
they will clean the skull. Some believe it's true. Some scholars says that never happened. I don't know. Um, but people say, you know, if say we're celebrating Laura because Laura died, so we're gonna take Laura's skull and we're gonna clean it up real nice and we're gonna put her in the altar. So Laura's here, right? And then when the colonizers came, they of course got scared because you know everything scared them, especially because we have skulls all over Mexico. I mean, we have so many because we're obsessed with life. People think we're obsessed with death. We're not. We're obsessed with life. So
Hmm.
the skulls represent life, right? So they started making them out of sugar and confection them and painting them and all of that. Again, our wonderful Mexican artisans. And then now people is fashioning themselves as a sugar skull. And the image is called La Catrina, the fancy lady.
Oh.
And she's not ancient. She's about 100 years old. And it's part of our Mexican culture, you know. And one time Jose Guadalupe Posada painted her, and then Diego Rivera painted her body. And now we have this character that is related to Day of the Dead. And I have heard people saying like, "Oh, the ancient tradition of La Catrina." Like, no, 100 years in history is nothing. That is not ancient. You want to see ancient? This one's ancient. This one is like 2,000 years or whatever, at least 1,000, I think. So these are the originals, if you will. This is the original sugar skull, if you will. I mean, again, I can talk about it for hours and hours, but is not an old tradition, and the parades are new. And of course, like at least here in Chicago, we have a parade, and people dressed up, and it all happened. And for good or bad, it's so close to Halloween that a lot of people don't understand the difference.
Mhm.
And when you grew up with mixed cultures, then you grew up with mixed cultures, right? So Mexican American kids see it as a one thing. And then it's on us, the older one. I didn't call myself an elder, I just say older, uh, to dispel, the misunderstanding, and then to try to educate people.
So with the evolution, like especially in America, when we have Samhain, which turned into Halloween, and because Halloween's kind of like an American thing. I'm pretty sure they do it in different countries as well. But for the Day of the Dead specifically, for Halloween, it's all about candy and Snickers and Hershey's. What foods or any foods at all are associated with Day of the Dead? You mentioned bread.
The bread of the dead. So going back again to the colony, right?
Hmm.
Colonization time. When we used to celebrate Day of the Dead for 20 days, there will be specific foods that will be shared in community. And that is a tradition that we still have in Mexico. People don't eat by themselves, and fast food is like, what? Because people get together. We eat on community all the time. And so when the colonizers came, if you had a lot of money, your family was very wealthy, then you could make bread, because bread was not something you do every day. So the very wealthy will set up the altar for their loved ones, and they will make this bread. And I know to people it's going to sound very macabre, but it's not. So the little, I wrap it because I'm going to take it to another class, but you can see little pieces here that are separated from the bread. And these are supposed to be the arms and the legs of the person. And then there's a little round piece here. This one don't have it. For whatever reason, these breads don't have it. But there's usually a little bowl, kind of like a donut hole here on top, that is supposed to be the head. So this bread represents a dead person. These are the ones that I grew up with in Mexico City. I came to the United States to find out that they also make this kind, and also to learn that in different regions of Mexico, they make different kinds of bread, and they actually look like people. So they look like a tiny, tiny person bread, and all kinds of different breads. So the bread is very, very, very traditional. You set it up on the altar, and then people will eat it.
Okay.
And then you will make what the person liked. So say Laura died, right? We're gonna make sure that they are French fries and ranch. So Laura can eat French fries and ranch. I used to eat chicken, so chicken tenders. I don't eat chicken anymore. So fake chicken tenders, right? The vegan version. And of course, you gotta have Diet Coke. So what the person liked is what you put on the offering, on the altar. And then there that happens, and then the whole family gets together and they all eat. But you don't touch the food on the altar. After that passes, you could eat what is on the altar, but the belief is that it doesn't have nutritional value anymore because the dead ate the nutritional value. Um, so there's a lot of stuff that you can put, chocolate and milk chocolate, and of course, chocolate is originally from Mexico. I know there might be one or two people that don't know. Chocolate is originally from Mexico.
Hmm.
Um, the colonizers took it to Europe and they make it into this whole Swiss chocolate thing, but it's originally from Mexico. The bread, popcorn is also from Mexico. It's also originally from Mexico. So some people will put popcorn. Fruit, lots and lots of fruit goes on the altar because again, the flower and the fruit metaphor thing. And the sugar skulls, some people will eat them, some people just put them as decorations. And again, traditions vary from different towns. I remember in Mexico City, my neighbor used to make like a big old pot of mole, which is a sauce that is made with a lot of different peppers, and it really is a labor of love. It takes probably like 24 hours to make mole. So this lady will make a big pot of mole and put it on her altar. It depends on what. I grew up in Mexico City, so people will, buy tacos and put them in there, so there's nothing exclusively peculiar. Now, when I was a child, we will go door to door asking for candy. But I have come to learn that that is an amalgamation of the Halloween traditions, right? Because our people ancient didn't do that, right? And it was not related to the other day. It's to the ancient Day of the Dead. It's more related to the soul cakes and the Catholic traditions. So it goes back to that, to the Christian belief system. And nowadays, it is a thing that some kids will dress as sugar skulls and go around. But the funny thing is, we don't say trick or treat. We say me das mi calaverita, which means, will you give me my little sugar skull?
Yeah.
So it's like it's just fleeting, like, sugar skull. But you don't give them sugar skull. You give them candy. You give them money. When I was growing up, it was money, so you may bank that day. Yeah.
I feel like Mother Nature just gives humanity the same, like Mother Nature touches geographically every people on the planet, because ultimately when Mother Nature dies, the cultures geographically are all seem to be in tune with, well, this is a time for our ancestors. So it's almost like, can Mother Nature give us that unity where it's all the same thing, just perceived in a different slant? Because it seems like everywhere around the planet during the dying season, that the different cultures in different countries are paying homage to the ancestors. So I almost feel like Mother Nature is the key to bringing everyone together on a world stage with, in conjunction with this new technology of communication, because we're aware of the different cultures and how we're celebrating. So ultimately, it just feels like during the dying season, it's all about homage to the ancestors, universally. So I think there's universal components. I'm not sure that there's too much difference on the overall slant of Day of the Dead in comparison to anywhere on the planet. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. The thing is, remember that ancient traditions and ancient peoples honor what they could see and what they could touch, right? The cycles of the earth, the seasons, the creatures that were not seen as less than. Because in most native traditions that I am aware of, animals and plants are our kin, right? I don't know the phrase on oh my god, what is this people's, I can't remember. All my relations, right? But Lakota. I don't know how to say the phrase on Lakota, so I'm not going to say it. But there is and it's very famous, and a lot of people in the pagan community are appropriating that phrase, utilizing it out of term, in my opinion. but it's all of my relationships, right? So the animal and the plant and the seed and the bird and me are kin. We are brothers and sisters, and we honor our mother who feed us, which is the earth, right? So indigenous traditions and pagan traditions are very, very, very similar because they are in tune with Mother Earth. Two things happen though. Native peoples don't want to be called pagan because there is a historic debt
Mhm.
and the genocide against indigenous people, because when the colonizers came from the old world, they said that we were pagans, and then, please pardon me for saying this, savages, and they kill us, right? Because they assumed that we were pagans. So this big wound is still alive with native peoples, and some don't like to be called pagan. I happen to be pagan and native, and I am okay with both terms, but
Mhm.
not everybody's Laura, right? And not everybody has the knowledge and the depth. The other thing is, it wasn't until the worshiping was moved from the earth and into an alien being on the sky, um, male, bearded, and perfect,
Mhm.
that only recognized divinity on males,
Mhm.
and the lighter the skin, the purer the individual. It was not until we stopped worshiping the earth, but we start worshiping an alien in the sky, that everything went to garbage. Because, and I was telling you on the other interview that we had, when patriarchy
Mhm.
and capitalism married, it all went haywire. I would like to use a different word, but I can't. You know. And then we stopped worshiping the earth, and most importantly, we stopped being in tune with the earth. Think about something very simple. It is 9:30 in Chicago, 10:30 in Eastern time, and we have light, right? This is not natural. We shouldn't have light.
Mhm.
Most of us should be probably in bed or getting ready to go to bed.
Mhm.
And I'm not even close to go to bed because I'm going to be watching TV and, doing stuff until probably midnight. That's not natural. But why do we have light? Because capitalism, because patriarchy, right? So there is that disconnection. I mean, not too long ago, I was reading that um, some people don't know that chicken is an animal. And so they eat chicken and they think they're eating, I don't know what they think they're eating, but they don't think they're eating an animal because we're so disconnected from nature, because capitalism and patriarchy, which are the children of that alien man religion, has us separated. So yeah, there is a profound similarity on being in tune with the earth. Our people, the native people of Mexico, that was our goal, to be in tune with nature, to be in tune with the earth, to walk. There are so many dances where we go heel to toe, because we're walking on the earth, we're caressing the earth while we dance.
Mhm.
So there is such connection with the earth on our native traditions that if you tell some people of other religions, they're like, you're weird. No, what is weird is to worship something that you cannot see, and then go kill half of the world because of that, which is horrible. I hope the patriarchy is crumbling. I really hope. I really hope that we're going back to earth and nature, and as much as we can, as long as we don't purposely hurt others, I think we're on the other side.
Miss Reverend Laura González, I have a question that I just got to ask you, and because I really want to be educated on this, and I have my own opinions, but I always try to use discernment and get as much information I can from other people who are scholarly like yourself. What is cultural appropriation, and how do you be respectful?
Cultural appropriation, as I understand it, is, I'm going to tell you with an example.
Mm-hmm.
Say Joanna Smith is watching this show, okay? And Joanna Smith learned everything that I have said, memorizes, learns, understands, grasps a little bit of the concepts. And then Joanna Smith turns around and starts teaching this and starts charging 100 times more of what you pay me for today. Because what you're paying me for today is with your love and with this forum, right? This is a volunteer work that I'm doing for you. So Joanna Smith starts selling the Day of the Dead tradition workshop.
Mm-hmm.
She's not Mexican. She doesn't have the experience of Mexican people. She doesn't have the struggle. She doesn't have the DNA. And she's not consuming from the source. And she's benefiting financially from the knowledge. To me, that is cultural appropriation. Okay. When I'm going to have to say the name, when Mattel makes a Barbie with the image of Day of the Dead, it is beautiful. I want to be the first one buying that Barbie because it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But that money is not going to the Mexican people.
Mm-hmm.
So Frida Kahlo, everybody and their cousin is commercializing Frida Kahlo. How much of that money is going to the Mexican people?
So if Mattel had some kind of commissions where they gave to, say, outreach services for Mexico in a capacity like it, a certain amount went to feed the children, feed the hungry, would that become socially acceptable at that point?
Not to me. To some,
Right.
it may be. But what will be best is if Mattel gets out of the way and highlights the Mexican artisans that make these beautiful Mexican traditional dolls
Mm-hmm.
that have a sugar skull painted. They're not gonna look like a Barbie because they're not a Barbie.
Mm-hmm.
They're dolls that are made um, fabric dolls that are sewn by hand. So ideally, Mattel gets and stays in their lane, keeps making Barbies, right? And Mexican artisans get highlighted, right? That is an ideal world. Now, I believe it was Ms. Maya Angelou who said, when we know better, we do better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Mattel or Joanna Smith didn't know that they were culturally appropriating. But then they learned that they were culturally appropriating. And then they say, oops, I'm sorry, man. I effed up. I didn't mean to steal from Laura. But I have a forum. I have resources. I have a channel. Let me highlight Laura. And if I can, let me pay Laura for her knowledge. Because the worst part, I think, Harold, is what I was saying to Monica earlier. They love our culture, they love our aesthetics, they love our food, they love our music, they love our tradition, they love our beaches, they love our oceans, they love our climate, they love to go have vacations over there. They
Mm-hmm.
love everything except
Don't forget food.
the Mexicans. And you cannot it's like if you tell me you love rap,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't like people of color.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I for example tried not to participate. Like when people talk about karma, like I'm not Hindu, I don't understand the concept of karma, I don't use that word.
Mm.
When people say chakras, like no, I call them energy points. You know, I just like, you know, when people say I'm saging, like really, are you Lakota? because otherwise you're smoking.
Right. Let's keep it real. Yeah. I'm with you. Let's keep it real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotta keep it real.
We can do tiny little things, and I love that you asked that question because it's a prickly pear. Nobody wants to touch it. And I know a lot of people get mad or get uncomfortable, and all of us have to sit with our discomfort once in a while. You know, like I have. I know I have certain privileges as myself. You know, I'm married to a man, so I pass as cisgender woman, and I'm not. I'm queer, right? So I have cisgender woman privilege. I'm an educated woman, so I have education privilege. So all of us have privileges, and we have to sit on our discomfort for a little bit. I'm bilingual, right? I have that huge privilege. A lot of Mexican people here in the United States don't have that privilege. So I have to sit on my discomfort and learn better and do better, you know. And yeah, it is uncomfortable to hear that. Like when Patricia asked, right, about dressing like a sugar skull. I don't know if you ever done it, but if you ever done it, now you have heard what it feels like. So maybe you're like, oh crap, you know, but now you change your behavior, you know, and that's what it's all about, you know. It's we all are trying to be happy. And yes, we all are children of the earth, but we also have differences that are dictated by socio-political, geo-economical, geographic. I mean, I cannot unwear the color of my skin. And if I'm with Monica in a restaurant, chances are the waiter or waitress is going to talk to Monica first. Like, what can I get you, man? And when they talk to me, undoubtedly, they're going to be like, is there anything? Would you like to drink? Because they will assume things. So, yes, I can't believe that Monica's soul and my soul, we're sisters, right? We are. But we get treated differently. And we cannot go like, oh, no, we're all the same. We're not. We are, yes, but we live very different experiences. This turned into something completely different. We're not talking about that anymore, but I love it. I love it.
Well, the goddess is alive and magic is afoot. Thank you so much for coming on the Lone Wolf Show. Yes. If our viewers would like to book a private session with Reverend Laura González, you can get that session at www.calendly.com/charitbylaura, and you can have a private session with her wisdom, inspiration, clairvoyance, and just overall beauty bestowed tonight. Thank you so much for coming on the Lone Wolf Show. I'm the Lone Wolf, my co-host Patricia, Monica Munistera. Always a pleasure to have you on, Laura. This is Witchcraft TV, and I'll see you later.
Thank you, guys.